All right, man. Cheers.
Cheers.
Awesome.
Been a minute since we saw each other.
Yeah, like 2 minutes, 3 weeks maybe.
Yeah.
But what are we going to talk about today?
I already forgot.
Oh, you forgot, dude? Come on. I wanted to make this a little bit more spontaneous.
Well, it is spontaneous now because I don't remember. It's on the tip of my tongue. Let me think about it. We were going to talk about the weather.
Yes.
Yes.
But specifically, how Japanese people relate to the weather versus like Americans relate to the weather.
Yeah.
Because like I wanted to talk about this because like I remember when I first came here and I didn't use an umbrella when it rained. People looked at me like I was insane.
I still get comments every single day that it rains and I don't I don't bring an umbrella.
Yeah. You still don't use an umbrella?
Oh, of course not. From Seattle.
Come on, man.
You're not
Rome,
going to catch a person from Seattle.
Yeah, but when in Rome, do as the Romans do, man.
Nah. I got too much pride.
Too much Seattle pride.
Too much American Seattle pride.
Well, in Boston, people don't really use it either. But yeah, so in Seattle, what do people do when it rains?
You wear a raincoat.
With a hood?
Yeah, you can.
If you want, but you don't have to?
Yeah.
It's like, if you wear a hood, is it like you're like weak or something?
No, I don't think so. I don't think anyone thinks anything of it. I mean, like, I think in general, and like I said, I'm generalizing, Americans spend less time outside than Japanese people. And a lot of that has to do with how you commute.
Yeah.
Right? Pretty much everyone in America drives.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're going to work, like, you're really not spending that much time outside. You really just need something that's going to keep you dry from your car to your to like the entrance of your work. Right?
Yeah, right.
Whereas in Japan, it's like, it's pretty common to be walking like 15 minutes to the train station.
Yeah, right.
And maybe walking another 15 minutes from the train station to your work. So you spend a pretty good deal of time outside every day. And it also rains really hard here in Japan.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't rain like that in Seattle. In Seattle, it's kind of like a little drizzle. And in Japan, it's like, when it decides it's raining, it's raining.
Yeah.
And it's true. Like, here's a swimming pool.
Well, actually, it's funny you say that because, Seattle has the reputation of being a really rainy city.
Yep.
But there's actually more rainfall in Boston.
Yes.
Per inch.
Yeah.
Per year.
It's a really common misconception because Seattle is the rainiest city in America when you count the number of days it's raining.
Yeah.
But and if you look at volume, there's actually quite a bit of places that rain more than Seattle.
Yeah, like it's funny though because I remember like the first year I was in Seattle for college.
Yeah.
And I had my first January.
Yeah.
There was not a single sunny day.
Yeah.
In all of January. I did not see the sun once in January.
Yeah.
And that was the first time in my life I ever wrote a song on my guitar because I had a guitar that I was playing around with and I always played other people's songs, but that was the first time I was compelled to write my own song.
Yeah. Maybe that's why there's so many.
The rayness.
Maybe that's why so many musicians come from Seattle.
Probably.
Yeah.
One second. I gotta fix. I don't know why my mic is doing this. It doesn't.
It's all jank.
Yeah. It's moving up. It's moving up.
I see.
Yeah. So okay, but here's the thing then. So you said that the reason is because it rains harder in Japan, but now you live in Japan and you still don't use an umbrella. So what's your thought process?
Okay. Do you want me to be honest or do you want me to like still quote my pride thing?
Be honest.
Okay. The honest truth is I don't trust myself to remember to bring my umbrella everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm going to lose it. I know I'm going to lose it. I'm going to leave it on the train, or even worse, I'll tell you where I've lost dozens of umbrellas.
Okay.
Here, right? When you go to the convenience store here, there's like a little rack of umbrellas and you put your umbrella in and it's fine. No one takes your umbrella. I don't have that issue. But I'll put my umbrella in, I'll go into 7-Eleven. I'll get whatever I need. And then I'll come out and just keep walking.
Yeah.
And then
when you get home, you realize,
it'll occur to me to be like, oh, I need to put
where is it?
Where'd my umbrella go?
Yeah.
And so I've lost so many umbrellas that way.
Yeah.
Another thing is like when I get to school, it's kind of like a similar thing. We used to have like this huge like umbrella rack.
Okay.
And I kid you not, there was probably at least 4 or 5 dozen umbrellas there.
Yeah.
That were abandoned.
Yeah.
And
well, yeah, because people forget it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just like, as far as I'm concerned, I'd rather just get wet and not have to deal with remembering an umbrella.
I get that. I actually used to lose umbrellas regularly up until about last year. I don't know what happened. Maybe
you became a responsible adult.
I did. It was because I became a father. That's why. So like I won't lose track of my kid. I won't lose track of my umbrellas, I guess. No, but for me, like, when I first got here, and I use umbrellas all the time now. Yeah. But originally, I didn't want to use an umbrella because I felt like it was just a pain to carry around. It's like I can have a hood and I can have a jacket on. Who cares if my head gets a little wet? Yeah. It doesn't matter. Have you noticed how scared people are of getting like their hair even a little bit wet here?
Oh, I know. I remember when I came in one time and it was like, it was right where a typhoon was like starting to approach Tokyo. Yeah. And so we were at the point where it's like, it's raining pretty hard. Mm-hmm. And I got caught off guard because I didn't look at the weather that morning. So I just got drenched. Yeah. And I came into school and my hair is just soaking wet. And I remember my vice principal came up to me and she was like, Austin, you could die if your hair's wet. Like you'll get like a sick disease and like you'll get really, really sick. You'll have to go to the hospital. I'm just like, I don't know if that's true.
It's funny because Natsumi told me, she's like, because when we first got married and I didn't care that much, she got angry at me. And I was like, why'd you get angry at me? She's like, because if it rains too much on your head, you'll get bald. You'll go bald.
Really?
Just like, what? I think it had to do with like folklore related to like acid rain or something from like, post World War or something.
Oh, I
like
can see that. Maybe.
Yeah, so I mean that carried over, but still like today.
It's funny. I had my ex-girlfriend, I remember, she told me one time that I'll get sick if I slept with my stomach bare.
Yeah, really?
Like if I wasn't wearing like a shirt or covering it with blankets. Yeah. Like if I just had my bare stomach out. Yeah. It'd be like, oh, your chest is exposed, so you'll get sick. And I'm just like, what? Where's this coming from?
Yeah. Right. It's funny though, because like, so being like this whole thing about relating to the weather and stuff, I feel like there's a little bit of like really big contrast for me because in Japanese houses there's no insulation.
None.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But people really care about protecting themselves from the elements outside. Yeah. But when it's at home, people don't care so much about the temperature. I mean, of course, people have heaters and stuff, but if they really cared, there would be insulation in the house, right? Whereas like in the States, it's the opposite. Houses are fully insulated. Heat is always blasting hot in every single room. It's completely separate from the outside world. But when you go outside, you like brave the elements.
Yeah, it's so true. It's one thing that I really noticed and that I get kind of sad about is I miss double pane glass.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I do.
Like I feel like it's a exercise in futility to turn my heater on when it's right next to my window. Yeah. Because it's like all the heat just goes right out the window.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like so I understand like the reason why in Japan they don't really insulate houses is because houses are a depreciating asset and you don't want to invest so much money in this investment that's going to be worthless in like 40 years or something. But you could do like double pane glass.
Yeah, I feel like that's not breaking the bank.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's so funny though, because it's like it really is so weird. Like when I go back to the States now, I feel weird because every room is warm. Yeah. All the rooms are the same. Yeah. And like when I go near the window, I don't feel the like cold rushing in or like the heat going out. Yeah. There's like, I feel completely sealed from the outside world. But, this time, especially now, because I'm in Niigata for a while, I'm back here for filming, but like, what is it? So at the house, they have the living room that has a kerosene stove running all the time. Which we can get into that later. And that's like the warmest room. And when we go into the hallway, you can see your breath. Like you can see the steam come up. So you go from this really warm room to like you can see your breath. Yeah. And then when we go sleep, we have to put on the heater first to heat up the room before we go in. Yeah. But then when we wake up, it's so cold. Yeah. Like I find that actually this year especially, I haven't been getting good sleep because it's so cold at night.
Yeah.
But do you have any stories about?
Yeah, I mean, I have the exact same problem in my apartment. So my apartment's 2DK.
Okay.
And the dining and kitchen areas where my heater's located.
Yeah.
And then so that's like right here.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have my bedroom right here, which we've taken off the doors.
Mm-hmm.
So we've kind of like made it a big giant room.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have like kind of my work and play room
Mm-hmm.
that's like over to the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter how hard I turn on my heater,
Mm-hmm.
it will never reach that room.
Yeah.
So like I had to do Zoom class at my school the past few days. Mm-hmm. So I spent a lot of time in that room. And I'll wake up in the morning and it's like I'm very warm, especially because we have a heated carpet under our futon.
Yeah.
And I'll wake up really warm, and then like I'll go to start class, and it's like literally stepping through the doorway. It's just like frigid, ice cold.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I hate this.
Yeah. Right.
Ah!
Right. Yeah. But it's funny because like yeah, I don't know. I feel like, because I also felt this when my sister came and visited.
Yeah.
Because it was raining, and also when my parents visited, it was raining in November too. Yeah. I remember we were gonna go out somewhere in the rain, and like my dad had his jacket on and his hood on, and we were about to leave, and he didn't have an umbrella. I'm like, Dad, get an umbrella, and he's like, why? He almost looked at me like, what, you think I'm a wuss or something like that? Like I feel like for a lot of people, like at least it was kind of like this for me too. It's like if I use an umbrella to like shade myself, I felt like I had lost the battle against when I felt like a little weakling. Like I should be able to tough it out, but I can't tough it out. Like, did you ever have that feeling?
No, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely. I think like I said earlier, there's like a sense of pride. Yeah. Of like, I don't need an umbrella. I'm a tough guy. You know? It's stupid.
Yeah, it is stupid.
You should wear an umbrella, or you should bring an umbrella. But you know something else that kind of cracked me up though is how much like weather is involved. Oh, thank you. You know what? I'll pour yours.
Oh, thank you, man. Thanks for being a gentleman. Thank you.
You're welcome, Arthur. But something that kind of cracks me up is like how much weather's like kind of ingrained in the culture here. Yeah. So like a term that you'll hear all the time is like hareona. Or
yeah.
Ameotoko. Yeah. You know, it's like sunny girl or rainy boy. Yeah. And especially like when people have like an important like date or something, or they're traveling, they'll be like, "Oh, it's okay. Like, I'm a sunny boy, so it's like every time I do something, it'll be sunny on that day." Yeah.
Is there something like that in the States?
I don't think so. I've never heard of that term before until I came here.
Yeah. But do you have any like funny stories about that?
Not in particular, but I remember the first time I heard it because I'm what you would call an ameotoko. Okay. So
doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I'm a rain boy. I'm from Seattle. Like, what, you think it's gonna be sunny when I do stuff? Yeah, come on. But yeah, I remember. It was when I first started working for my school. We had sports day. And we've since switched because we have our new school, so like we don't have to do sports day outside. But before, we used to go to Shiba Koen, right next to Tokyo Tower, and that's where we do sports day, right? So it's this big exposed park, and the first year I went, it rained on sports day. Okay, and my teachers were like, "You're an ameotoko." Okay. And the next year, we went.
It rained?
And it rained on sports day. And the third year we went, and there was a typhoon on sports day.
Oh, man.
And they're just like, Austin, you might have to start taking the day off on sports day. And I'm just like, are you serious? You actually believe, like, it's not like, there's millions of people in Tokyo. Like, let's jump down the rabbit hole a little bit and let's pretend that this exists. Yeah. That this ameotoko thing is actually a thing. You're telling me that my power is stronger than the other millions of people here?
I actually believe them. You're like a larger than life force, man.
I got main character syndrome, I guess.
Yeah. No, but it's funny that you mentioned that because I remember one one time I was in Seattle, and I always hung out with like the ryugakusei.
Yeah.
And we were gonna go get dim sum.
Yeah.
By the way, dim sum in Boston is way better than dim sum in Seattle.
I don't believe you. You probably went to a crappy place.
Maybe I did, but
there's no way.
We should compare, man.
There's no way.
Okay, because I've had some really good dim sum.
I'll fight you on this, man.
Okay.
Seattle's got some good dim sum.
Okay. You're wrong, but okay. Anyways, we were going to go get dim sum with the Japanese ryugakusei. And it was actually sunny weather. And right when we get off the bus in the International District and we're walking up the hill, clouds start to come over. And I remember this one girl was like, oh yeah, sasuga ane onna. And she was talking about her friend. I was like, what? And they're like, oh yeah, whenever we hang out, it rains. I'm like, is that a thing? Yeah. You've never heard that before? I'm like, yeah, what? That was the first time I ever heard about that. Yeah. But it was like, it started to rain. They're like, oh yeah, it's your fault.
Yeah. So there's kind of just like a culture thing with that. One thing I've also noticed is people often blame, like in work culture, people often blame the weather for when someone gets sick.
Okay.
You know, like I had this happen all the time when I'm at school. It's like you'll get one of my teachers and stuff that's, you know, they're working like an 80-hour work week. They're just completely swamped, right? And this person is clearly coming into work exhausted.
Yeah.
And then, big surprise, they end up getting sick for like 3 days and they have to take work off. And as soon as they leave, someone will make a comment being like, oh yeah, well, you know, it's cold right now, so they probably got sick. It's like,
yeah.
Do you think it was the weather, or do you think it was the fact that they probably didn't get good sleep and they were overworked?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
you know
I get that. Yeah, have you noticed how like
oh, I'm spilling everywhere.
It's okay, man. Don't worry about it. We'll get a tissue later. You just have to revel in your mess right now.
I'm blaming that on you for overfilling it.
Because it's rainy today.
Yeah.
Actually, it's snowy today, but yeah, I did fill it a little bit too much. But so have you felt this too? Where like I feel like in Japan, there are a lot more warnings about the weather more than
completely.
in the States.
Yeah.
How's that different?
You see it everywhere. I like to compare it. I feel like if you're in the States, people will occasionally look at their phone and check the weather. You see the weather on the news, and you'll see the weather in the newspaper.
Yeah.
But that's usually about it.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas here in Japan, you'll get all of that. Plus, they will show the weather of the forecast for the entire week on the train.
Yeah.
You'll also see it in places where there's like big telemonitors, like in Shibuya. There'll be like little weather things that'll like show the weekly weather.
Yeah.
And you see that everywhere. I mean, you can go into 7-Eleven. Sometimes they'll have like a little thing that like says what the weather is. There's a lot of stuff that's like giving you constant up-to-date weather information.
Yeah, and the thing that really surprised me, especially now that you mentioned on the train, is like they'll have the weather, but not just the weather, but they'll like have the danger levels. Like I remember in the summer, they'll say like the UV radiation will be really high in this area and really low in this area. Or like with the snow, it'll be really dry in this area, really humid in this area. And then they always say like, okay, if you're in this area, make sure to put moisturizer on your face and stuff.
Another thing is, I don't know if this is specific to Minatoku in Tokyo, but I don't think it is. But there will be. I remember I was so weirded out the first time I heard this. So it'll be like midday, and all of a sudden there'll be like sirens blaring, and I was like, dude, are we under attack or something? Like, what's going on? And then it'll be an announcement, and it'll be like, hello, there is a toxic cloud from China coming over into Tokyo. Please don't go outside if you can't.
Really?
Have you never heard those announcements?
Not that one specifically. Not that one specifically.
It was the weirdest thing for me to like hear that, because I'm just like, what do you mean toxic cloud? Like, what is this, like a gas attack or something? And it's like, no, it's just like, you know, factory runoff and stuff. And it's like, they'll just make an announcement. It's like, yeah, just don't go outside for like an hour. Yeah, well, that's a whole nother thing too. It's like, you know, the whole concept of like when it's 5 o'clock, or in Niigata when it's 6 o'clock. Yeah,
there's a chime that rings, and everyone in the town can hear it. And then when there's a big announcement like that, they have speakers around that everyone can hear it.
Yeah,
and you know, it's funny because when I first heard that, it almost made me feel like I was in like communist Russia or something.
Yeah.
Please support your comrades.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's nice that you have that, but because also I feel like one of the reasons why in Japan people care more about the weather and stuff is just, there's so many more like natural disasters here that just like wreck everything.
Yeah.
Like in the States, right? It's like, okay, yeah, so it's gonna rain. Okay, there might be a little bit of flooding. In Japan, oh yeah, it's a typhoon, a tree might fall on you. Or hey, there's gonna be an earthquake. Yeah. Or like where I was like when I moved, I live near the Tamagawa River, and they were like the fall that I moved there, they're like, oh yeah, the Tamagawa River's about to overflow. You should evacuate.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up because something if you want to bring up natural disasters, I remember being in Seattle, like people will make such a big deal about the windstorms in Seattle. There's usually windstorms in like November and December. And comparatively speaking, they're not that big a deal. It's like maybe a couple trees will get blown over and maybe there's like a landslide like deep in the hills or something, right? But overall, like not really anything happens. Like the power goes out for maybe an hour or something. Yeah. But it's like here in Japan, I've lived here for 6 years now, and I've lived through like 2 really big typhoons.
Yeah.
And like you were saying when the Tamagawa River, so for those who don't know, the Tamagawa River is this river in southern Tokyo that both Arthur and I are pretty close to. But Arthur, you literally live next to it. I live
like a 1 minute walk from it. Yeah.
And so I remember watching and like seeing this whole thing happen, seeing the river overflow, and like they were just so casual about like saying people need to evacuate. It's like they would have this like a little evacuation thing. It's like if you live in this area, you should probably leave.
Oh yeah, that gets on your phone.
Like, yeah. But I remember watching the news, and the person was just like, "Oh yeah, well, if you live in these places, you should please leave right now." And this place is kind of dangerous right now, so don't go outside.
Yeah.
And it's just like, if this was in the U.S., people would be like stuff would be falling down in the studio. The reporter's hair would be down, and there's like, "Ladies and gentlemen,
we have to leave.
This has been the worst disaster in recorded history. We have to leave right now, or else, you're probably gonna die. You should probably say goodbye to your loved ones right now, and just hold on and pray to God."
Yeah.
And it's like it just really like surprised me about just how I don't want to say emotionless people were here, but like maybe on the flip side, just how dramatic Americans can be sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. It just, I think it goes into like, like the influence of like Japanese culture.
Yeah.
How would say like, current Japanese culture and the way society is really, I really feel it's really strongly based on the geography.
Yeah.
And also like even the weather, like the consciousness about the weather, like always checking the weather before you go out. I like never did that when I moved here.
Definitely I still don't do it.
But it's because it's actually dangerous and it can like hurt you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think probably the only comparison would be maybe living in like Hawaii.
Yeah.
Where the weather is just constantly changing because it's like Japan's an island, and being on an island makes such a difference when it comes to weather because the weather just changes in an instant.
Yeah.
It'll be sunny, and then literally like 3 minutes later, clouds will roll in and it starts raining.
Yeah, right.
So I understand that.
Come on, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, definitely pour.
I'll over pour again for you.
But I remember it also cracked me up when so a couple times we'd have typhoons here, and I remember the trains would be announced that they're just closing down.
Yeah.
And that was such like a horrifying thing for me.
Yeah.
Because
holy crap, the trains are closing down?
I felt trapped. I was like, dude, I can't get it. Like if I have to go somewhere, I can't. Like, how are you people okay with this? And I remember talking with my friends. It's like, oh yeah, I mean, this happens. Just stay at home.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird how it's like the whole system is really geared around self-preservation and like trying for the safety. Because I mean, it would be nice to take the train to go somewhere, but if there's a huge earthquake or if there's some really big problems, that train can get derailed and then you're dead.
Yeah.
And I like a lot along with like the warnings, like from what we see is like the overbearing, too intense warnings about make sure you put moisturizer on your face, or make sure you have like a parasol so you don't get too much sun. But like that's all centered around trying to help people live more comfortably. Yeah, you know, which is actually kind of nice. It just for like us like independent, free loving Americans, it can feel kind of like I'm in Soviet Russia or something a little bit.
Yeah, it definitely can. I think you brought this up, but it seems like people talk about the weather a lot more here too.
Yes,
because you want
to complain about the weather more. I would say. Yeah, it's weird because like also I'm kind of sensitive to complaining because I know how important it is to be in a positive mindset, because if I'm in a negative mindset, my business goes bad. So I try to protect myself from that, and I try to get away from complaining a lot. But yeah, I feel like a lot of people complain about how hot and how cold it is. Yeah. And like when they're at home, like I remember, so I use like Hello Talk, which is like a language exchange app. Yeah. And I remember this one person was posting like, "Why is it so cold today?" I'm like, it's January. That's why. You know, I just want to say that, but like, it's weird because it's like you could do more to protect yourself from the elements so you feel less comfortable. Yeah. So you feel more comfortable, but you don't do that, and then you complain about it a lot. You know, I don't like in the States, like I don't feel like people complain about the weather as much, but like, what's something that your friends will complain a lot about?
I think the big thing that comes to mind is like the snow.
The snow?
Yeah, because in Seattle it doesn't snow very often. Yeah, but when it snows, nobody knows what to do.
Well, yeah, because like you have so many hills and like
it's just chaos.
Yeah. So, but what's something that's like so like if Japanese people in our experience tend to complain more about the weather than Americans, like what do Americans tend to complain more about? I think.
Sports,
yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, people would be like, "Oh, did you see the game? You know, it's bullshit. The ref didn't know what they were doing."
Yes.
Like they'll talk like that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. It's so funny because actually in Boston, you know, when you're talking with someone and you don't know what else to talk about, it's kind of a joke now. But people are like, "Yeah, so what about them Sox?" You just talk about the Red Sox, or you talk about the Patriots, right? Yeah. Like, oh yeah, did you see that game? It's just like. The people talk about, that was such a crap game, you know, like they complain about that a lot. Yeah. It's funny.
Yeah. It's definitely the weather here. Yeah. Where it's like, big time. You know, you'll when there's like an awkward moment in the conversation, someone would be like, "Atsuii desu ne."
Yeah.
Like, that kind of thing.
Like, I know it is. Don't remind me. I want to feel cold.
It's like, dude, we're in the same place. Like, I'm quite aware of how the situation is.
Yeah, right. So we've been so I feel like some people would be feeling like we're kind of trashing on Japan or Japanese people a little bit because of like sensitivity to weather or something like that. But is there something that you kind of wish people from the States would adopt?
Where I don't know why I keep saying where. Bring an umbrella.
Bring an umbrella?
I don't do it, but I recognize that it's an intelligent thing to do.
Yeah. It's just so like your intelligent brain says you should do it, but you're like your man brain, your full macho brain is like, no, I don't need the umbrella.
You know what? Something that I really like here in Japan is like all the little devices that are made to make you feel comfortable depending on the seasons. Yeah. One example right now is Japan tends to be really dry. Yeah. During the winter, and it can get, I'm not going to say dangerously dry, but if you don't have a humidifier next to your bed, like you'll have bloody noses, your skin will dry up and start flaking off, and you'll get like really bad headaches.
Yeah, right.
So because of that, like pretty much everybody has humidifiers right next to their bed, so it'll just like kind of make steam over them while they're sleeping. And I like those little gadgets. Yeah. I don't understand why. It's not like they don't exist in the U.S., but like no one uses stuff like that.
It's funny because like last time when I went to the States during winter, because you know in the States you have central heating, so all of the rooms are heated at the same temperature at all times, and so the air gets super dry. Like I remember, this is a coffee reference, but I remember when I had my espresso machine, when I was like grinding the coffee. When you grind the coffee so fine, it's really sensitive to static electricity.
Oh, really?
Which means it'll like clump up and get stuck to the grinder and maybe like jam it up a bit.
Oh, really?
And it's funny because I never have that problem here because, well, I use humidifiers here in the winter, you know?
Yeah.
But it's like, it's so funny because my mom complains about how dry the air is, and this is what she does. She will like take a coat hanger and put a wet towel on it and hang it up somewhere and let it just like dry naturally.
So when I first moved here, it's funny you mentioned that because I talked to some friends of mine that were back in the States, and I'm like, dude, it is like stupid dry here. How do you deal with this? And there's like, oh yeah. So they mentioned the towel thing, and another one was like, so you take like a big cooking bowl and you fill it with water and you put that next to your bed and it'll evaporate.
Cooking bowl?
Like a big mixing bowl.
Okay, yeah.
And then you fill it with water and you put it next to your bed and it'll evaporate into the air. Yeah, that's a dumb idea.
Yeah.
It's a really dumb idea. I slept, I moved around, knocked over the bowl, and got water everywhere. That is a stupid idea. Yeah. Absolutely dumb. The towel thing, I think, has some merit to it because it's like, okay, what you realistically do is you just do your laundry and then put it in your room and let it dry in your room.
Yeah.
And that works okay.
Yeah.
Or you just buy a humidifier.
Yeah.
And don't have to deal with it at all.
Yeah, dude.
Like, you know?
Yeah. No, I totally get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get it. Like, yeah, people are more conscious about it here, but there is also a lot more technology to help you just feel more comfortable here, which I like.
And I feel like Japan in general is just like really set up to make you feel comfortable in your home.
Yeah. Like, except for the insulation.
Except for the insulation. That still bothers me.
Yeah. Oh, man. So was there anything else on the top of your mind to talk about for this topic? Or I feel like we've talked this topic to death now.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, we're almost done with this anyway. So
yep.
Final one. Cheers, man. Thanks.
Cheers.